Sorry, we're going to go live, and I don't want you to say anything. Good evening to the ISSOC committee. Thank you all for being here. Just protecting you, Mr. Sherman. So let's get started with a welcome and a roll call. Consider that the welcome. Sarah, do you want to do the roll call?
Yes, sir. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Mr. Fred Atkins has an excused absence as well as Joseph Mitchell. So I'll go ahead and get started with roll call. Ms. Greta Campbell.
Present.
Ms. Bobby D'Alessandro. She was going to attend via Zoom. I don't think she's on just yet. For Mr. Fred Elliott.
Here.
Ms. Ramey Hall.
Here.
Mr. James May.
Present.
Mr. Joe Mazurkowitz.
Here.
Mr. Joshua Melendez.
Present.
Mr. Richard Peacock.
Present.
Mr. Matthew Ropestorff.
Here.
Mr. Jay Santos. Ms. Sharon Schulman.
Present.
Ms. Sia Sherman.
Here.
And Chris Dimino.
Here.
All right, sir, I'll turn it over to you. We have a quorum tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. First agenda item is the approval of the prior meeting minutes. They were sent out to you in advance. Does anyone have any? Well, actually, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any discussions, edits, additions to the minutes? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Is there any public comment? Anyone from the public like to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 4, which is the ISSOC chair update. I will reserve most of my remarks for the carry forward items. I do want to encourage the committee to follow along with the things that are happening in the school district, including the passage most recently of a 10-year capital budget and the FY26 operating budget. I believe those were made public or shared last week. Obviously, some of those things are affected by the sales tax. Also, in a 10-year capital budget plan, obviously you have to project out to 2036. The sales tax will be sunsetting as is today, the halfway through the fiscal year of 29. So you will see in the 10-year capital plan a reduction in projected revenues given it, as of today, the sales tax would expire in 2029. I think that's it. I would also say I learned interesting, poking around a little bit on the student enrollment. You should look into student enrollment. I believe we're flat to just a little bit down in the district this year, largely due to the FES, which is a scholarship that enables you to take your student and move to other private, public, charter schools or virtual schools or at home. So that's an interesting change. We've been growing this district for year after year, but this year actually saw a slight decline in enrolled students. And then also I think the school district and all of us as taxpayers need to follow along from a political perspective about the implications of some of the political discussions about eliminating the property tax and how that might have long-term effects on school funding as well. That's all I have. Do we have a board member who is available to provide an update? Ms.
Hi, good afternoon, or actually I should say good evening. Thank you. I am on. Thank you for that update. And yes, we have been in discussions with the fact that the district is a little lower than normal. We're not really sure. From my understanding, if that is students moving into the private charter sector or if those are families moving out of town. So I will say that we are projecting that there still will be quite a bit of growth in the eastern part of the county, as well as the west northwest part of the district, which are going to probably be updated tonight with our construction update. Some fun things that have been added to the district since the last time we met we approved last week that we are adding a cafe and bakery back to where the district once had a full-time cafeteria for the employees down in the district. So we believe this will support our staff and our employees that are housed down at the district building. I know that technology is going to be updated tonight, but there are going to be several upgrades on all of our systems in our 82 schools and our 2 centers. We are adding to 8 schools. We approved the installation of stage curtains in our elementary and middle school to support their arts and theater programs. And some safety features that may or may not be included in tonight's safety update, improvements in lighting in our unlit areas like parking lots and athletic fields at 2 of our biggest high schools, bigger high schools, and that would be East Lee and Island Coast. So those are my updates regarding last week's meeting, and I just want to say and thank you to everyone that is in attendance tonight. It's really important that the community be involved, and I appreciate you all being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Hearing none, we're moving along. Item number 6 is carry forward items. I do like to go back into the minutes, look at things that we have talked about in the past, and make sure that we're carrying forward those items into our next meeting. The first one was related to a communications plan related to the sales tax, and tonight we will have Mr. Spicker presenting on the communications plan. We did talk about understanding the weighted average of depreciation of the, not of the sales tax, but of the entity activities that the sales tax has funded, to really understand life cycle and replacement of the things that were bought under the sales tax. The school district is still undertaking that. They have started to look at it, but they don't have the information prepared yet. So they're still working on that. Is that correct, Ms. Scott? Thank you. So we will hear about that at a future meeting. In the past, under a previous chair of this committee, there was some concern about reporting out on safety and security investments in this, of the sales tax. And under Mr. Schimpf, we made a decision as this committee that because some of the safety and security issues are sensitive, that they didn't want to disclose them in a public setting such as this. And so that the chair of the committee would meet independently with the school district to get assurances that the money that they're spending on safety and security is aligned with the sales tax. So had the opportunity today to meet with Lisa Barnes, who's the new executive director of safety and security. I greatly appreciate her time and her insight. We did talk about some of the things that they are using sales tax money to advance safety and security across the district. A couple of them, as you might expect, include things like the Open Gate, which is a weapons detection system. We have heard a little bit about that at the school, a minimum of 5 per school, increasing the locks, particularly on those rooms that are accessed from the outside. Working on improving single point of entry, refreshing intercoms. We've heard at length about investments in surveillance, infrastructure, and servers, so improving cameras throughout the schools. We're not going to get into the details of where they are, but I want to assure you that they are spending sales tax money on safety and security and have reassured me of what those are. So I'm passing that along to the committee, the reassurances I have, so that they don't have to come and talk about that. Does anyone have any questions about that? This is a very quiet committee tonight. The final discussion, we began to enter a little bit of a conversation about the sales tax continuing after the 10-year plan, which is, as mentioned earlier, halfway through the fiscal year of 29. I believe that's about 3 years away. And it is not the role of this committee to make a determination about the future of the sales tax, nor to make any recommendation to the school district. Ultimately, the recommendation of pursuing an extension or a sunsetting of the sales tax rests entirely with the board, not this committee, but the full board. However, it is our responsibility to talk about whether we are aligning projects with the referendum that was passed in 19. So there may be an interest in talking about the future of the sales tax at this table. So we did talk about it at the last meeting, and if there's any, given those parameters, that A, we have no authority to recommend, is there anyone who wishes to talk about the sales tax referendum, or not even the referendum, but the continuity of the sales tax past the 10-year period? Mr. Missouri, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I belong to an organization, BUPAC, Business People United Political Action Committee, who recently had a candidate for school board come to a meeting and said that she was not supportive of the sales tax moving forward. And so I asked, what would you do? Where would you get the money to replenish that amount of money presently collected? And she said there's 123 administrators downtown that average $113,500. And so I just took her numbers, straight up, I believed her, and I told her that's $13,960, just under $14 million. I go, the sales tax is $117 million a year, or actually I said rounded up, $120 million is what it's been over the time. And I told her, says, you make no sense. You get rid of all of them. If you fired them all, you're 10% of what the downside is. And at that point, she was quiet. But we still have a job to do. We have to educate this community as to what the sales tax is bringing in, and the idea that there is gross mismanagement of every dollar the school board spends, to where the most impactful Dodge event that they could ever put in here will never come up to $120 million. And so that I think that's something, as we go forward, we don't have to, we should identify what we have done and how we vote for every dollar twice, both by the upfront for the projects and afterwards how they're expended. But the fact that just let the numbers be known. This is a person who is very involved in the school system, is a substitute teacher now, and declared candidate for the school board, having no idea of the concept of $120 million annually for capital versus getting rid of every administrator in the school system, which saves you just under $114 million. I mean, it's just, excuse me, under $14 million. It's so bizarre. And these people have folks who are listening to them. That's our job.
Thank you.
If I could.
Ms. Sherman.
Just to piggyback off of that, I think also it's important to acknowledge the fact that I think when this referendum first started, and I believe it had already been in existence for maybe 2 or 3 years before I joined this committee, but to keep in mind of where the district was and how quickly we have managed to make up that shortfall and how far behind we were and where we are now because of these funds. That we have been able to make leaps and bounds in 5 years that would normally have taken this district, and trying not to be, to over-exaggerate, anywhere from 10 to 15 years. I don't think that that's an outlandish timetable, but I mean, to really think about the dollars and what they've been able to do for this school district, and the fact that they have touched every single student in our district, without question.
Mr. Pica.
Yeah, I think when the conversation first came up, I didn't get the impression that this group or this committee that is mandated by the charter to do this was giving an opinion. I think the conversation started with, there was a series of presentations that were being delivered in the community, and those abruptly stopped. And then the conversation of there may or may not be a sales tax moving forward. I think that's where the conversations started to take place. Now, to my knowledge, those presentations are not being given currently. To your point, that's how we've educated the community in the past. Now, if we're not going to do, that's perfectly fine, but there is going to be a void of information in this community from business leaders that still are getting educated on what the sales tax really does and the significance of it. And unless I'm wrong, part of the reason that we are here today is to communicate that to the public and then to make sure it's being spent to the requirements that it was set forth with. I think that was where the conversation was going, not necessarily what you should or shouldn't do with it.
Any other comments? I appreciate that. I think all three echoed a little bit of an issue of communications, that I think that this committee takes it very seriously of what we do, but it's not just doing it, it's about telling people what we're doing and getting it out into the community. So I hope when we hear the next presentation, if there are no other comments from Mr. Spicker, we will have a little bit more clarity on how, when, where we are going to communicate the success of the existing referendum and how we position this moving forward into the future. So is Mr. Spicker available to speak? We'd love to have you, sir.
Good evening. It's Rob Spicker. I'm the Director of Communications, Marketing, and Public Relations, and I'm glad to be here tonight to kind of give you an update on some of the things we're doing. One of the things I know you're interested in, so I did pull statistics just on the sales tax dashboard, looking at the second and third quarter, so April through a couple of days ago. 1,328 views, unique views on that sales tax dashboard from 897 users, so almost 900 people viewed a little bit more than one or two pages. That's how you get the difference. It's users versus pages. The number one spot where they land is the homepage. Number two, they go to the capital versus operational. And number three, they go to the individual schools dashboard pages. So the site still continues to get some traffic. I understand what you're saying about communication, and we have kind of been in a lull with sales tax projects, and there are a lot coming up, and that's some of what I'll sort of run through with you now about where we're headed and what's coming our way. So one of the things that the big project we have, which looking forward to perhaps a total project cost being approved at the October board meeting, is high school NNN, the one in Alva. So for that school in particular, we've taken a communications plan where we have developed, it's a unique web page just for that school. We came up with a series of videos, the 5 W's, who, what, where, when, why, that are all placed on those on that web page. They've been very effective in kind of combating some of the misinformation and claims about the school, so that the community knows really how long that school's been planned there, why it's planned there, the work that's been done in advance to get that school built at that site. It has a claims versus facts section to address some of the questions that were specifically brought to the board during public comment or through emails to board members, so that we could address those and get specific answers. And it has proved very effective for that as well. If we go forward, which we expect with the October total project cost, we're going to move right into a naming process for that school. We'll begin a week later. We're working on forming the committee that will help with that, and I certainly will extend I have some assistant principals who are going to help me and may extend an invitation to any of you to join. It requires 2 meetings. They'll probably be Zoom, but we put out a public survey. We get a large list of suggestions. We boil that down in the committee to 5 or 6. Then get that down to those 5 or 6 finalists and put those out for a vote. Each step of the way as we do this, there are news releases and there are interviews if they're asked for. And every news release related to the naming process always mentions that this school is sales tax supported, so that that's there, so that anybody reading it makes mention of that or at least is able to see that. And then we'll have a groundbreaking, we expect, coming up in December. I've already been able to talk with the contractors, planted that seed in their mind last week. Yes.
How much of the school is going to be funded by sales tax? And is it in the budget and projections that have been presented to the committee?
I don't know that I have specifics.
I'm sorry, which school was that?
NNN.
NNN is not currently in sales tax. We will be paying that out of our other capital funds, just given the duration of that project. And the funding that we have available, that debt service will be paid out of another funding source.
What I like to say about the schools, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I always say they're supported by the sales tax because we couldn't necessarily build NNN if we didn't have sales tax money. So maybe I'll have to be careful with my language to say supported by for that school. But that's a big project coming our way with NNN. Some of the other things that are sales tax funding that we've done of recent, we had the Cypress Lake Middle School demolition. That was an original sales tax promise. That school has been torn down and is being rebuilt. So that is happening. Bonita Springs Elementary, same thing. We had a ceremony down there, low-key, but fun when we did it. And they have since torn down the buildings there and have started the rebuild process. And we have the Cape Coral Tech expansion, the groundbreaking for that building that we did right at the beginning of the school year for Cape Coral Tech, if we're interested. But certainly Cypress Lake Middle, Hector Cafferata, these kind of schools, when they're closed in, we typically invite media to come back for a tour, show them through, and it gives us a chance to highlight at a good point in the project where we're at, and again, try to promote what the sales tax is going to. Things that are coming up real soon, we have the groundbreaking for the Bayshore School, and it's a building to turn into a K-8. That's planned for Friday, October 3rd. And it should be a fun event that we're going to do. That school, if you don't know, is separated into houses, similar to Harry Potter. So they are going to build a pile of dirt for us right in front of their large mural with all the houses. It'll be a nice backdrop for the photos as we break ground there.
Same question. How much of the sales tax is being spent on the Bayshore School?
Do you know how much?
I don't see it in the current financials. It's not to say maybe prior to 2025, we didn't, maybe there was some prep work in 2025 that's not reflected on the financials, but it's not in the current 2026 going forward.
Yeah. So no, not. Are you saying like where the entrance was to the school? They actually, so the construction company was nice enough to save that for the photo opportunity when we took media there to announce the demolition. And that was the piece that they tore down. Because it said Cypress Lake Middle School, it was a nice piece to bring down.
Like all tilt wall, and then there's red brick.
Well, so I know that they have lifted up the panels, and so that's probably the new structure you're looking at.
There is a portion of the old building remaining.
Yeah, okay.
Or is that what it is?
I thought so.
Part of their cafeteria eating area, that building demolished, we're taking it, so we're going to put another amount of portals out there. So we're repurposing that, so we can do it into the new building when that building.
So maybe I'm sorry, I haven't driven by in a while.
Yes,
Also,
excuse me.
I think we're talking even a broader communication. I hear that you're talking within the education community and the faculty and staff and students, and the parents may even know, but there's a whole part of Lee County that's also funding some of this that needs to be up on everything. And I think it needs to be tied more. When we talk about, we talk about new computers. That's not a building. It's not a groundbreaking. All these things need to be communicated out so that people understand what we're doing with some of the, I mean, look, we've even done toilets. But, but the fact of the matter is the whole of Lee County needs to know this, and not just the parents and the students and faculty.
and I don't disagree.
But that's what I don't hear is particularly happening.
These are our big projects. These are the ones that I highlighted. So I understand what you're saying, and we can develop something that continues to highlight those things along the way. One thing that is being done is that was provided to every school was an announcement to read it before their football games, their volleyball games, their basketball games, school-specific messaging about how much the sales tax has benefited that school. And they're asked to read that twice during a game. So hopefully we've provided it to them with the intention that they do that. So that's just one way to reach, because that does bring in not just families, but sometimes community members or friends and family that aren't related to that school community.
Josh Melendez, is there any, like Cypress Lake, is there any signage out front, like if it's tax supported? I mean, we think there'd be like a big sign out here, this project, supplied or I don't mind the supported by.
I know that
Something
I know that
says-
signs were at one point available. but a lot of them were damaged after Hurricane Ian, and some of them didn't go back up. So I'd have to go by that site. I haven't seen there. The intention is to have those signs up there. I don't know. Have you
I
seen
haven't
the
seen
sign
it.
on that site?
No.
Yeah. The intention is for there to be signs. So might need to go survey those sites myself and find out and see what we can do to update those signs. I'll just finish. We did finish Riverdale. We had a ribbon cutting at Riverdale at their most recent pep rally. A couple of things that will be coming up as well. We'll have a ribbon cutting for the Lemuel Teal and Veterans Park Black Box Theater. And then the construction updates that I mentioned in terms of when these schools are closed in, just giving updates. And then we can certainly look for ways as we go through the year to continue to highlight those other projects that you mentioned. It's a social media posts. We can do bring back a sales tax Tuesday, a type of thing. If there's other ways that you're interested in making sure we're reaching the community, we can.
Yeah, I just believe the whole community. You're not going to get senior citizens, oops, I did it again. You're not going to get senior citizens voting for this again if they don't know how their money is being spent. And so, or even being supportive of what's being done as we go along. So, or the people that don't even have families, and they're not senior citizens.
Right.
It's the whole community that has to understand where this money is going.
I don't disagree. And I think the reason I stand here to focus on construction is because those are big projects that catch attention, and they generate excitement in the communities, but also, we'll get media out there when we do these events, first days of schools, ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, and we are entering back into the capital plan being approved, entering back into a building phase, where not only do we have N&N coming up, there's an elementary L, and then there are 3 schools opening up, I think, in 2028, a K-8, all out in the East Zone. So we're going to be at a point where we are promoting the construction in particular of new facilities for the next couple of years, because we're getting to the point where all these schools are now coming back on the table for construction. And each one of those always gives us the opportunity to remind people that it's the sales tax driven, and get them back to the dashboard to see all the things that you refer to.
Any other questions? I have one. Do you know how much the sales tax went into the Riverdale renovation?
I didn't study the numbers, but was it all of it? Okay.
I believe it's $108 million, right?
That was the total project cost.
85 million was the sales tax? So there was a ribbon cutting last week.
Yes. It was a school event, so as opposed to having a unique.
Is there a
separate
public event to celebrate the fact that the sales tax funded $85 million worth of that? Are we missing an opportunity to sell that?
Well, we had a very nice story today in the news press. We had a story on NBC, we had a story on Wink, and we have a story on our Facebook page.
That it was all funded by the sales tax?
At least from us, we always mention the sales tax. I know that our story on the Facebook page specifically has a sales tax mention from the folks that were involved.
Okay, and final question, I'm sorry. Do we have any community presentations, as was referenced earlier, set up and ready to go?
None that are currently scheduled, but we'd certainly be there to support if there's a willingness of the board to get back out and do those.
A willingness of the board
your
to get out
committee, I'm
there, or
sorry.
the committee?
Your committee.
I think we've expressed in the past that we have more than welcomed the opportunity to do that.
All right, we'll coordinate to get some dates. So
Great.
do we have any suggestions on where you would like to go?
I think that this was, conversation was had and discussed.
Okay.
It's like going back to 23 again.
Okay.
Rotaries,
Yes.
chambers,
Service clubs.
service clubs, country clubs. Yes, we
All
had
right.
we had a plan.
The same cycle that has
Yes.
been going, yeah, okay.
We can
If
get
you
that back
don't
in motion.
mind, if you don't mind, could I interject here?
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so I was at the Riverdale High School ribbon cutting, and just to answer some of your questions, these are great points. I'm taking notes, copious notes, and so there were at least, I'm probably underestimating 50 community members that were at the ribbon cutting at Riverdale that did not have students there. They were businessmen and women. They were people who had possibly taken part of the building of the new remodel. So I do know that the community was well represented there. this is not falling on deaf ears as to being able to have these updates for the community. And I really appreciate the idea of someone brought up senior citizens whose tax dollars are going towards our students, meaning our community. And perhaps this is something that the board can consider doing, not even just at Rotary clubs, but maybe some sites around the community that don't necessarily have members that belong, but something that we could perhaps, and I know Mr. Spickler would do a great job at getting this out to the media, if we were to have 2 or 3 of these meetings in each zone, or 2 or 3 of these meetings in a year, one at least in each zone at some kind of site, like perhaps an FSW site, something like that that we could partner with. So I'm taking notes on this, and I just wanted to let you know that we are also doing town halls. We kicked one off last night. Mr. Spickler and his team did a great job at getting that information out. And those are things, those types of meetings, I believe, need to be broader, and people need to understand that not, if last night was at Fort Myers High, but anyone was welcome. And it didn't mean that it was just Fort Myers High. So perhaps this committee could also help us reach out to the community and say, wherever you live, perhaps you would want to join one of these town halls. I know we're going to try to do one every 6 to 8 weeks throughout the entire district. Thank you.
Ms. Sherman.
Just as a random question, and you'll have to forgive me if it is there because I haven't seen it, but I know that there's, social media pages for the district. Do you guys add them as events, like these town halls, these ribbon cuttings, are they as events on that Facebook page? Because it'd be easier for members of the committee to share that on our personal pages.
Town halls are listed as events. We've now had one. We'll soon list the next one because it's in October. Groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings are invite only. We don't turn people away. So if a school member or parent is aware of the ceremony and comes, we don't stop them from coming, but we don't make them those kind of events necessarily where it's wide open to the public, just because of sometimes the size of the space or the active construction nature of the area where we're going. But we've never turned away a parent or somebody who's interested in attending. We just don't say it's a public event.
Just an offer, if you get back to doing the community cycling with the Rotaries and whatever else, if you'd like to come to Whiskey Creek and do a presentation at the country club, I'm the chairman of the community. I can guarantee you of the 2,800 homes there, half them will attend because they have kids in the schools, they're active parents, it's the right income bracket you're looking for. Those are the areas maybe you're missing where you have bought in families
Right.
that really can understand this and express to the community and their friends and partners and places they work. So if you get back to it, that offer stands.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peacock. That is a generous offer of you, and I'll remind you that Mr. Mazurkowitz offered in the second 2 meetings ago to present in the West Zone, and Ms. Sherman offered to present in the East Zone, and I offered to present anywhere you need to be.
Okay.
I think what I would like to convey is that you have advocates and partners here on this committee, and we can help you. I was a little bit taken aback that there was just as a matter of fact, Mr. Mazurkowitz, I believe you were the chair at the time. There was a woman who came for public comment to this committee, and she argued vociferously for investments at the Riverdale High School. You remember that? Yes. And we took her input very seriously. The school district went back and said, you're absolutely right, the Riverdale, and it should come out of sales tax. So this is a full circle moment to come back around, having opened up that. I think it was a missed opportunity not to include the members of the ISSOC in that ribbon cutting because it was a full circle moment for us. So we're here to help.
Well, you get invitations to all the others. Sorry you didn't get one to that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you raised a very good point, because in the first year when I was chair, at least as being chair, I was invited to those ribbon cuttings and attended. We're losing a PR war here. The same school board candidate that I was referring to earlier, talked about Riverdale and made mention about how the cost got so much larger than originally without knowing that the scope of the project changed. And publicly said that it was because the school district didn't realize that when you remodel a 20-year-old building, you have to fix the plumbing and the electric, which is, I know, wrong. I know it was wrong, but that's what they said. And it's like, we have to fight that. I mean, we are in a war for public opinion with regard to the sales tax, and there are people out there willing to say anything, regardless of being right or wrong, to defeat us. We have got to step up our game.
Any other thoughts? Thank you for being here.
All right, thank you very much.
Hearing our feedback. We are going to move next to the review of the sales tax funded projects. Mr. Reichbacher, are you leading us off? I am. Like Ricky Henderson, here we go.
Wake you guys up. How you all doing tonight? My name is Scott Rickenbacker. I'm the Director of Construction Projects Management. I only have 4 slides, but I got a whole bunch of other stuff I'll mention to you, some of the dollars you were asking about tax, and some places to get some more additional information that you yourselves and any of your constituents want to see. So if we go to the first phase, we have 3 phases. We report the sales tax: design phase, construction phase, and closeout phase. So on the first sheet, you'll see that these are tax-funded projects. The Alva School, traffic improvement, Tortuga Elementary, Trafalgar Elementary, Trafalgar Middle, Villas Elementary, all traffic improvements. So in the design phase, sales tax money was used, and if you add them all up, comes up to $514,718, and that was to start the traffic studies and the design improvement drawings to eventually get engaged into the construction. Any questions on that page? None? Okay, we'll move on to the construction slide. You'll see and understand that the Veterans Park is kind of a little quasi-hybrid. It started out as it was going to be a super K-8, then we broke it apart into remediating what was the old Lambs building and is now Lemuel Teal, VPAA, and also we created a black box theater out there. So if you look at it right now, the black box theater, which will have a ribbon cutting ceremony very shortly, so I would think you'll be offered an opportunity to show up there and present the need for the sales tax, hopefully. That project was $14.9 million. The Lemuel Teal renovation, that came in at $8.2 million. That's new flooring, finishes, carpet, paint, roofing, windows, HVAC equipment inside. Veterans Park Academy, again, new flooring, new paint, new ceiling tiles, LED lighting, and fan equipment for that school, sister school right next door. The next question you had was Bonita Springs Elementary. Right now, the total project, or the amount of the project that is being funding from sales tax is $36.6 million. And if you haven't been down there, the site is torn up. We are actively putting in foundations and underground and starting the stem walls, moving up. Following that is Cape Technical College. That's underway. We're pouring the precast panels now. The demolition of the old, what was the Hector Caffaretta building, is gone. And we are now completing the foundations. We're pouring our tilt panels and getting ready to stand that project up. And that's for $23.8 million came from the sales tax revenue. Riverdale High School, the big one. The total project cost that was approved by the board was $108 million. Of that $108 million, $85.9 million is sales tax funded. Another $22.8 million came out of other funding sources within the district. And of course, the last but not least, Harns Marsh Elementary School, traffic improvement. That's the physical work being completed now from the first phase that you saw the tax funding, the design and the traffic study at $1.2 million. Any questions?
So am I to understand that all of the projects that are listed, the project cost is what is related to or what is being funded through the sales tax, with the exception of Riverdale High School?
Riverdale, I made my notes because I knew you would get confused with that. That is incorrect. The total project cost that was reported to the board was 108. The actual sales tax value against the 108 million was only 85 million.
Okay, but the other projects, the amount that we see under is the sales tax related portion.
For that full,
okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mazurkiewicz, yes.
Scott, could you just very quickly and in a thumbnail sketch talk about Riverdale and how it started, how it grew to $108 million, and it wasn't the fact that we didn't realize that we needed to do electric and plumbing there?
That's correct. So Riverdale, it was a different regime that was overseeing that in operations. They went out there to do a global campus study, a master plan. The master plan was very light in the very beginning. Once they started considering the master plan, a new gymnasium, in addition to the existing gymnasium, to enlarge it, which turned into a brand new gymnasium, taking the existing gymnasium, rather turning that into classroom, using it as a secondary multi-purpose function, but also act as a secondary kind of gym, like you would have at Fort Myers High or Dunbar High School has a secondary gym. And in addition, we took on a lot of the maintenance work that hadn't been done over the years in terms of revitalization of HVAC equipment, lighting, ceiling, electrical power, and so on and so forth. So when you take all of that maintenance scope of work and throw it into this construction project, yes, the cost of the project grew to $108 million.
Wait, can I ask a question? Why hadn't the maintenance work been done?
You know, you can only do so much, and here's how I can also explain it to you. It's a renovation. How come it's more than a brand new high school? When you're working on an active campus with over 2,000 kids, your productivity changes dramatically. The cost of construction per square foot goes up threefold. In addition, you're less productive. Cost of materials go up, labor goes up. When you combine all these stars, so an example I could give you, and I can't support the sales tax one way or the other, but here's what a food for thought. By 2030, 40% of these schools will be considered by DOE aged out in the district. These are occupied schools with kids. There are no staging schools. There are no portable campuses. So you're into a renovation like Riverdale. And you look at the costs of what an occupied active renovation campus can be in terms of funding versus a new school. And you look at the volume of schools you have that are technically aging out, that are going to have to be kept alive to house student population. 95,000 kids in the district, Ken? At least? So take that as your thought of, is there a need for a sales tax moving forward? I'll let you guys do that math.
That's
But
not up to
just-
us either.
Right, but also just that, because I had both of my children go through Riverdale High School, you know, they have a whole new science building with updated ventilation, because they couldn't even do science experiments, whatever, because they didn't have the proper ventilation to be able to do that. So it's really enhanced the, I guess, the educational environment for those kids as well. So just to kind of piggyback on
honestly,
that.
at the moment in time, we didn't have an option. Where were we going to put 2,000
No,
kids?
I totally agree. I mean, they took out, just taking out the lockers in and of themselves, because the lockers were along the old
Right.
hallways, just taking those out doubled the hallway size. It was absolutely insane.
Correct.
So, but yeah, to answer the question, I mean, there was, you know, the amount of manpower and the amount of funding that was needed to take care of old Riverdale was daunting to begin with. And then, I mean, now, I mean, I'm there every day, so it's just been unbelievable to see the new gym. I wish
Thank
they'd
you.
done something to the pool, but that's because I'm selfish. My kids are swimmers. But,
No.
but I mean, what they've been able to do on the campus has been, while students are in active learning and trying to make sure that they don't interrupt that.
Correct.
I mean, it was pretty incredible.
Well, and when you look, I appreciate that. Thank you for that compliment. The team works very hard to put that together, and it's a big team.
Scott?
I can tell you that,
I would just say that in an effort to combat what is going on out there as false information, you give a very well-founded, grounded explanation. You have to turn that into a soundbite.
probably, I can tell you that the cost of construction from when,
It makes perfect sense. When you're trying to construct around 2,000 kids going to school there every day, it's going to be a lot more expensive if you're building from new.
Absolutely.
I mean, those are, you got to come up with sound bites to make that, because there are folks out there spewing false information, and they're gaining credibility.
and honestly, the cost of construction, you all know Gateway High School, you've seen it, it's opened in 2019, I think, I believe. That was $98 million. I think the hard cost of construction was around 83, something like that. But $98 million was what the board approved. I think we brought it in at 4 million under, but that was a number. In October, the board approved total project cost, and I can tell you, I'm right at the wire, is $162.2 million. That's for high school NNN. The next high school, QQQ, which was supposed to come online in 29-30-ish, I think we're projecting over $200 million. Ooh. Construction has gone up in the last 5 years, 30 to 40% on a lot of the big ticket items, concrete, steel. So, you know, everyone's like, oh my God, you're building Cadillacs. We're not. We are super conservative. We reuse our prototype design. We update it for current code. We update it for current technologies that help save energy and so forth. We're not building Cadillacs. Ken worked with me a lot in terms of our FF&E. What can we do to trim it? We're getting rid of carpet. We're going with luxury vinyl tile. The cost of the two are equatable now, but it saves on custodial labor, saves on maintenance, long-term labor. So I think, you know, people would be surprised at what the real story is. There is no malfeasance or inappropriation of funds. This is the cost of doing business in a district that's growing about 1,500 kids or a school per year for as long as I've been here, since 2004. So that was the construction side. And then last but not least is our closeout side. So the schools, Franklin Park Elementary, don't know if you've had a chance to go out to their beautiful. Community thing, the Lee Health collaboration they have in the back. That parking lot's always full. So it's really nice to see that the community's using it. $3.6 million has gone to pay the debt service in FY26 on that project. And the Alva School, the traffic improvement, the temporary portion, this was a portion we had to do. You probably saw it all over the news. We had to do something immediately until the full-blown civil drawings were produced for the fix. And that was $430,000 was spent for a temporary phase just to try and resolve that issue. Cars were out on that deep bend on the road in front of the school, which backs up to the bridge. So for a total of $4.1 million was spent being utilized in the closeout phase. That's how much those projects have produced. And in the grand scheme, you look at the last piece of the pie, I'm proud to say my little 12-person department has utilized 48% of the tax revenue for FY26. One thing, I do a 2-month update. If you want additional information, this is available on board docs. This is my sheet for our large capital projects. And for instance, Hector Caffaretta, all of the big projects are in there. It tells you the funding sources, tells you the substantial completion dates, the dates we've gone through. So this is available as information. You can get it on board docs. We just presented it, I think, last Tuesday.
Board doc is publicly available?
Yes.
Thank you.
And this is created every 2 months to update the board on all of the large capital projects. So that gives a cornucopia of information for you. In addition, if you want to see pictures of all these schools, if you go to the district's website, go to departments, go to construction department, you'll see a updated monthly with progress photos for every one of the projects we do. So these are overhead aerial projects, you know, interior shoots and everything. So I think it help give you some confidence that your money's working.
Thank you. Any other comments, thoughts on construction? Appreciate your updates
Scott,
as always.
Scott, would you mind going over I know you probably don't have these numbers right in front of you, but we have saved a significant amount in our construction change order reports to put towards other projects. Could you just mention, just kind of like on a high level of where we're at with that?
I mean, I can speak to the direct material purchase program we do. So on our larger high schools, I'll usually return about $1 million to it. I would have said Franklin Parks, we returned $7 million, but that would be a fallacy. We returned about $1 million. The $7 million was because it was overinflated allowances and in the GMP because they couldn't get enough bidders. So that money came back. So I can't claim that as a savings, but we do GMP on all of our major purchases. And on the bigger high schools, it's about $1 million. Middle schools, it's about $800,000. That all comes back to the district to be repurposed in other ways. On our regular projects, from my owner's contingency part, the change order report I do every month. I'm required by statute to present that to the board. And we have a whole column of returned unused project funds and DMP tax savings that comes back. And I think this last month we returned $1 million, this past month, 30 days. So we're constantly trying to be frugal with the taxpayers' dollars, get it back in so it can be repurposed for other programs.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Ms. Fleming?
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right, so we'll move on to technology. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ken Schwartz. I'm the Deputy Director of IT Operations. Patrick Way is unavailable this evening, so I'm going to fill in for him the best I can. All right, so with our technology project updates, teachers and staff laptops, student Chromebooks, and I'm going to also talk about some access and some security upgrades that we did. Next slide, please. Thank you. So for July, we spent our allocated $552,000 for teacher, staff, and student desktops, also for teacher and staff laptops, and for student Chromebooks. The numbers for July are listed on the slide as $117,000 allocated to $288,000 to $146,000 for a total of $552,000.
What time frame is that?
That's for July.
Just a month. You spent $500,000 on technology in a month?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
All right, so our...
If I might ask, what's the average lifespan of the technology that you bought right there? Laptops, Chromebooks?
I believe we have a refresh cycle of 3 to 5 years, but we've extended that out to 5 years. I believe it's been extended out to 5 years.
A Chromebook will last 5 years? Or a teacher laptop? I don't know.
It could, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the longer we have on the refresh cycle, then we run into problems with maintaining the equipment in terms of upgrades, updates, firmware patches, et cetera. They become harder to work on, require more time by staff.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us a percent or an estimate of how much of those laptops were refreshed? I see it's refreshing, so I guess my question is the $500K paying for 30% refresh, 50% refresh, 80% of the computers are refreshed with $500 a month? I mean, you see what I'm saying? We're only doing about 10% a month refresh.
I'm not exactly sure what that percentage is because we don't purchase all these devices all at the same time. The purchasing is spread out over, it could be a few fiscal years that we run to refresh equipment. Okay, so for the, I'm moving on to the next slide in regards to intrusion and access control updates. So we did security refresh and hardening of the access control systems at the sites listed there for the months of July and August. And then we also had security refresh and improvements to our intrusion system at several sites as well for a total of $212,000. And that was for the months of July and August. For surveillance cameras and servers, we had a total expense of $886,000 through July, August, and September. Listed out the schools there for those surveillance updates that took place. These were cameras that were refreshed and also servers that were refreshed. And for our interactive panels, this is the Promethean panels in the classrooms. We have a date of September, or excuse me, a time frame of September 25 where Lehigh Senior High School will have their interactive panels updated.
Excuse me, so purchase orders have already been issued?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're saying that by the end of September or shortly thereafter, they'll all be installed?
Oh, no, ma'am. They'll begin refresh in September.
Okay, but the purchase has been made. The purchase orders have been issued.
I do believe so. Any other questions? All right. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us tonight.
Right.
Maintenance. Just as a reminder, because I like to tell myself this, we just bought $500,000 of computers that may be a 3-year lifespan, which will need to be replaced after the sales tax has expired.
Ready? Okay. Good evening, ISSOC committee members and district colleagues. In this evening's can you go back to the other slide? I'm sorry. In this evening's presentation, I will highlight maintenance sales projects over time, their impact to the learning environment, and our commitment in providing safe and well-maintained learning environments. Next slide, please. For the period of March 2019 through June 2025, Maintenance Services has worked on 585 sales tax projects. As depicted on the slide, the projects have ranged from building improvements and upgrades to primary building systems such as HVAC, roofing, and plumbing. As depicted on the graph, the bulk of the projects are in the building improvements classifications, in total approximately 254 projects. This category comprises of doors, hardware, bathrooms, windows, covered walkways, and flooring upgrades, to name a few. With respect to protection of district assets and safety of students, of staff and students, a total of 67 projects have been performed between fire systems, such as fire alarms and sprinkler pump upgrades, and safety systems such as intercoms. Next slide, please. This next slide highlights the current sales tax projects Maintenance Department is working on. The current 3 projects are fencing at the Sanibel School by the bus loop, and doors and hardware upgrades at both Fort Myers High School and Success Academy. At the Sanibel School, the photo on the screen is an example of the fencing that will be installed at the bus loop area for Sanibel School. Based on the recommendations of our safety professionals, the fencing upgrade is being performed because of the current height of the existing fence. The recommendation is to increase the height of the fencing to 6 feet. This change will further deter unauthorized people from gaining access to our facility. The new fencing will also offer greater peace of mind for staff and students of the facility, and above all, it is in alignment with our district's #1 goal of safe and secure schools. Next slide, please. One of the last year's projects that we worked on was windows upgrades at Fort Myers High School. In this fiscal year, we're using another phase of this project, and we're focusing on door and hardware upgrades at the facility. Door upgrades include new aluminum doors and frames and associated access control devices. As for the slide on the screen, you will see 2 photographs reflecting these projects. On the left and on the right, you will both see window upgrades that have been performed, but specifically on the left side, it's an example of the aluminum frame doors that we have installed for the facility. And that concludes our slides for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Cedeno.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any questions? You got off easy. Thank you for all you're doing.
I have one
Thank you.
really quick.
Oh,
So
yes. You didn't get
did you
off.
put a bulletproof glass covering on those windows? Is that what that is or not?
These are actually hurricane impact glass, and they are rated for the current codes that is required for this particular part of town.
So is it bulletproof or not? I thought you guys were putting a coating.
That's part of a safety and security project,
Oh,
and we
okay.
can bring that
Sorry.
as a
All right.
follow-up question.
All right, sorry,
If that's okay?
I think we'll,
Hurricane impact windows are not bulletproof and bullet resistant.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you. Now the fun stuff, financial budget and revenue forecast.
This is actually the funnest part. And as Emily comes up, I do want to introduce her because she's a new member of our team. She is our Assistant Director of Budget, and she joined our team on the first day of school, August 11th. So we're excited for her to be here and present to you all tonight.
Hello, everyone. Like she said, my name is Emily White, and I am the Assistant Director of Budget. And I'm here to go over the overall budget for the current year's sales tax. So for our first slide here, you'll see that for fiscal year 26, the total estimated capital budget or revenue is expected to be $427.4 million. Of that $427.4 million, around 57% comes from local capital property tax at around $243.5 million. And sales tax actually makes up 28% of that at $117.6 million. I do want to point out, though, that these are new dollars, so it does not include any fund balance or rollover or anything like that. For our next slide, this is appropriations for the current fiscal year. That comes in at $235.7 million. The largest portion of that obviously comes from construction at 48%. And then we have reserves at 25%, technology at 10%, capital maintenance at 10%, and then safety at 7%. All right, on to our next slide. So this just shows our monthly tax collections. You'll see that between the two fiscal years, fiscal year 24 being in green and 25 the blue, they're very similar. The spikes that you'll see, those come from our quarterly discretionary receipts. So that's why you'll see those spikes every few months there. But like I said, you'll notice that they're very similar year over year. And then for our next slide, there's 2 or 3 things depicted here. The first is from the life of the sales tax, or inception to date. You'll see that we budgeted or projected a little over $659 million, and we actually collected, or we have collected $680 million. For the last fiscal year 25, we projected $122.5 million, and we received just over $118 million. So there's a little bit of a shortfall there. And then, of course, for the current year, we're only a couple months into it. So as of right now, we have projected to date $14.7 million. All right. And I believe that's actually my last slide. Do I have any questions?
Any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
The last slide here just shows our monthly, like month over month receiving for the last fiscal year, projected and actual. And you'll see there that overall we projected for fiscal year 25, $122.5 million. And like I said before, we actually received $118 million. So there's a little bit of a difference there, around 3.5%.
Thank you, Ms. White.
Quick
Mr.
question.
Epstor.
Realizing fiscal year 28 is way off in the distance, I'm curious if you could project this far in advance, go into our overarching discussion. If the school board stopped levying the sales tax on December 31st, 2028, when would sales tax funds run out?
That's a good question. I believe that it would be through the end of that school year. Is that correct?
I can speak to that. So even though collections will end in December of 2028, there may very well be expenses that occur after that, because there could be, open purchase orders for certain projects that will need to be closed out. So that liquidity period isn't necessarily known, but we know it'll be shortly, sometime after December 2028.
Because I see we budget about 25% for reserves every year, so I'd imagine, do those reserves are held outside of what's already put in the expenditures, and would those reserves carry forward?
Yeah, so the reserves is kind of 2 pieces. One is kind of a long-term strategy of paying the debt service that we have with the sales tax funds through December 2028. And then the other piece is projects that we know will occur this year, but we don't necessarily put the budget, we don't necessarily take it from reserve and put it out into the location budgets until they're ready to begin those projects. So that 25% makes up both of those things.
And sorry, one more question of curiosity on the longevity. As in the resolution, as part of the projects, is described as the debt financing and the payment of the debt service for the projects. I don't know if any of us will be here, but our term and involvement as the committee commences on the approval of the surcharge, and it says it ends upon the completion of the last project. So, I mean, could this committee go well into 29, 30, just to give us all, as we sit at the table, I mean, how long this committee is going to stay intact looking through these projects?
Yes, if that is what is in the policy, that would be my interpretation. You all would be here until that last project is complete.
Okay.
And if that's the case, I nominate Ms. Sherman to be the chair at that time.
I respectfully decline. Hope you have a great
Can I
day.
make a proactive motion for 28?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just a question. We have been so good at projecting the revenues from the sales tax. Do we have an idea why we have the $4 million shortfall this year?
I believe that we speculated that there's a difference in, or coming off of the hurricanes and just COVID, all of the things that have occurred.
So the
over the
enhanced
last-
spending over the last 3 or 4 years has slowed down more so than what we contemplated. Are we still using the Florida Department of Revenue projections to budget our numbers, their projections going forward for sales tax revenue?
Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, so the Economic Development and Research Office produces their forecast every year. So we do look at it. We don't necessarily mimic what they have because we look at our own historic averages and trends and specific data for our area that's produced by the Department of Revenue. So we do look at it, but not necessarily go with their recommendation.
And if I'm correct in reading this, although we achieved 118.2 million last year, the projection budget for this year is 117.6. So we're projecting an additional decline in FY26?
Yes, that's correct.
Which I would tend to agree because there are no more artificial accelerators to the economic
Not
income.
yet.
Yeah, I mean, nobody else is throwing money at us like they were for the last couple of years.
Or in a strong rebuild after a hurricane, there
Yeah.
was a lot of sales
Yeah, a lot
tax
of sales
expended
tax,
in this region.
Well, it makes
People
sense. Okay.
buying drywall and things.
We got a big election cycle coming up in '28.
We'll be throwing money. Any other
more
questions? Thank you and welcome to the district.
Thank you.
Nice job. It is that time of the meeting where we seek a motion and vote on.
Mr. Semino, if I may interject for a moment, as you all make your motions and vote, can you just name who is making the motions and seconds so we have them for the record, please?
Yes, please use your microphone and state your name. The first motion that we would like to make is to approve the sales tax financial statements as presented as being consistent with the expenditure requirements.
Mr. Chairman, Joe Mazurkowitz, I so move.
Cole Peacock with a second.
Thank you, Mr. Mazurkowitz and Mr. Peacock. For the record, any questions, comments? Hearing none, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The second motion that we're looking for is to approve the projects as presented as being consistent with the project requirements. Can I have a motion?
Joshua Melendez, I so move.
Thank you, sir.
Cole Peacock, second.
Thank you very much. Mr. Melendez first, Peacock second. Any conversation about that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Are there any additional member comments to come before the committee? Seeing and hearing none, I believe that we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.